Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to each and every one of you, as always. We embrace all that you bring with you to this space, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, everything that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes, as always, those who hear me say this each Sunday, as well as those who might be joining us for the first time today. You're equally as welcome and appreciated. So thanks for being here. Thanks to those of you who are streaming with us. It's always great to know that you're with us too. And I know that you're with us because you told me last week to say hi, so hi. Some folks actually stream our services from the comfort of a boat. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. So it's good to have all of you. I do want to begin, as usual, with some brief announcements. Once again, next Sunday is going to be our annual community auction luncheon and unveiling. So please be here for that, where you can look at the items that so many of you have generously donated, items, services, those sort of things, to help both raise funds for our congregation, but also to have a lot of fun getting to know each other, doing some fun events together. So if you haven't made your donation yet, it's not too late. In fact, I encourage you to do so. You can get those into the office by Tuesday, and we'll be able to get them on our list in time for next Sunday. So please do that, and be here next Sunday for the fun. And also, we need volunteers to help run our slideshow that you see every Sunday. It's not a big effort. It's actually a PowerPoint presentation and just requires you to kind of follow along with the service and push the space bar now and then and sit in a nice, comfortable seat where Jocelyn is. We always appreciate Jocelyn helping with that on Sunday, and Catherine Alexander and others who help do that. But it's hard for one person to be able to commit to every Sunday for 2 services. So if you're going to be here and you don't mind helping out, please let us know. All right, I'm going to ask Catherine Alexander to come forward to make board announcements at this time.
So I have 3 short things to share with you. First, we've heard that there's some confusion about understanding Todd's role in freedom of the pulpit and his role as CEO and how those terms apply to our congregation. So we have some information in the back. As board members, we have to be and are familiar with this, but it's also important to know that our bylaws and the contract with Todd say, and those are available for you as well. If you want to see any of those, they are public. There's a handout in back giving more information about that, and we'll send this out electronically as well. On the back side is a copy of our mission and vision. So we want everybody to be aware of where we're wanting to go as a church. Second, we've updated information about what's happening this fall, and there's a revised vision of that in back as well. And finally, we have a schedule for the Healthy Congregations team. They're coming at the end of October. So there are sign-up sheets. So please do sign up. Pick your time. There will be groups of 10, and you'll see that in the back. It'll also be available online this week, we hope. Okay? So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Catherine. You said you'd be brief, and you were. I appreciate it. That gives us more time to spend greeting one another this morning. So do take some time now to say hi to those around you. If you are visiting for the first time, please don't be shy. We're glad you're here. Thank you, and please stick around after our service for our social hour, where you'll have more time to visit with one another. But let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The following words are an excerpt from an article written by the American Humanist Association. A humanist outlook will tap the creativity of each human being and provide the vision and courage for us to work together. This outlook emphasizes the role human beings can play in their own spheres of action. The decades ahead call for dedicated, clear-minded men and women able to marshal the will, intelligence, and cooperative skills for shaping a desirable future. Humanism can provide the purpose and inspiration that so many seek. It can give personal meaning and significance to human life.
Our first in-service hymn of the morning is For All That Is Our Life. It's number 128. If you want to access a hymnal, it's the hardback hymnal, but of course it will be on our screen. It's a favorite of mine because it actually it allows us to be thankful for everything instead of just the good stuff. So please rise as you're willing and able.
Good morning. The story I will tell you today is from Aesop's Fables. It was hot, and it hadn't rained for days and days. Crow had been flying all day long and was hot and thirsty. He looked in the fields but could find no puddles to drink from. Then Crow found a pitcher with a long neck that had water in the bottom of it. Crow could not reach the water, but he could see it lying just out of his reach. Then Crow had an idea. He looked around and found some pebbles on the ground, and one by one dropped them into the pitcher. With each drop of a pebble, the water rose higher and higher until Crow was able to drink his fill. The crow then flew off, but throughout the day, other creatures came to the pitcher and drank their fill as well. This story is an old story, but has much truth to it. Crows and ravens have been observed behaving in goal-oriented ways in the wild. Corvids live in harsh climates, which display the very opposite of abundance. But by being clever, curious, and thoughtful, they find ways to create abundance around them, benefiting not only themselves, but other creatures as well. The crow was able to help himself and others as well.
We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission for the larger world.
Thank you so much. We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. And I have only one request on behalf of Annalisa Azopardi, whose brother Brian passed away 2 weeks ago in San Diego. Let's take a usual moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion.
The secret to having it all is believing you already do. I wrote the following words for the Old Little Nature Chapel. With the confidence in the gift of light, which was bestowed upon us at birth, we have the ability to be instruments of miracles. Namaste.
I'm going to invite you to share in a responsive reading with me today from the back of the gray hymnal, number 614. Number 614. And since we have our choir here with us today, why don't our congregation begin in unison, and then we'll have our choir respond, and as we usually do, we'll conclude on the last verse together. Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all.
And around beneath me was the whole globe of the world. And I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in the sacred manner the shape of all things of the Spirit. And the shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw the sacred roof of my people was one of many roofs
Thank you so much. I think that while you were singing that, you made the whole world just a little bit more peaceful. That's what I was imagining, that your sound waves were just radiating on and on and on and bouncing everywhere within this globe of ours. Thank you. That was really beautiful. I also was thinking, when Catherine was giving her readings earlier, a lot of you may not know that she has an online little nature chapel. Am I saying that right? And so I always love it when our lay leaders come up here, because they all bring something just a little bit different. I've asked that our lay leaders find their own readings or write their own readings or whatever it is they want to do to sort of express themselves when they're part of our services. So what Catherine always does is she reads a quote that maybe we're familiar with, maybe we're not, but then she offers a little bit of her thoughts or interpretation or reflections on that as part of the readings that she gives. And I was thinking a lot of you may not know that that's what she's doing. So she's offering some global wisdom, but also her own reflections in response to that. So thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. So I want to start this morning's sermon by talking a little bit about dualistic thinking, because I think dualistic thinking is problematic, as it causes us to draw lines where there really aren't any. Just compare a map of the world to a photograph of it, and you'll understand what I mean. We behave as if the imaginary lines we draw in the sand are real and worth fighting over, even though they're barely dug into the surface of shifting sands. But nobody is to blame for dualism. Nobody invented it and convinced the rest of us that this is how we should think. Differentiating one thing from another, including ourselves from others and from the earth, is what enables us to become conscious of ourselves, others, and the world. Those who can't make these distinctions, who are undifferentiated, remain unconscious and unaware. So we perceive truth and reality through the lens of dualism, the lens of opposites and opposition. This is this, and that's that. Yet as Taoism reminds us, especially with its profound image of yin and yang, ever churning and turning into each other with no discernible beginning or end, each always containing a spot of its opposite. Duality is how, as conscious beings, we must interpret the world. Yet truth and reality are much larger and more whole than we are capable of understanding. If we don't recognize this, if we can't live with cognitive dissonance by entertaining opposing ideas, we become rigid in our thinking, cruel in its execution, and go through life acting like half-wits. Right? Only half the circle. A few of the common dualities that irk me most are related. One is the duality of thinking and feeling, suggesting a person is either intellectual or emotional. If one is too smart or too logical, whatever that means, it must mean one is incapable of having compassion or empathy for others. Or one who feels too deeply must not be thinking straight. But unless there's something terribly wrong, like a brain injury or severe mental illness, most of us are capable of both thinking and feeling. Deep thinkers are also deep feelers. Thoughts and feelings may in fact be one event. Thoughts incite emotional reactions, and we get in touch with our feelings by first rationalizing them, that is, by explaining them to ourselves and to others. Another duality is the notion that empiricists can't be spiritual. This reflects one of the most ancient, if not archetypal, dualities, the duality of heaven and earth. Either one is a gross, unenlightened, suffering earthly creature, or one is a transcendent, high-minded heavenly being. Scientists are empiricists. So are many philosophers. And you better hope your doctor is an empiricist, lest you prefer leaving your care to faith healers and the fates. Some say I'm not a spiritual person because of my empiricism, which I find demeaning as it is dumbfounding. Anyone who is inspired by anything, and all of us are, is spiritual. Even if they are inspired by things like elegant science and nature and reason and math and other earthly muses. Those who, with different sources of inspiration than our own, doesn't mean they aren't spiritual, and saying they aren't doesn't make us more spiritual, it just makes us sound like fundamentalists. Disrespecting the spirit of another, which means not acknowledging it, because that's what respect means, to see, is also dehumanizing, which leads to the false dichotomy I want us to mostly consider here, the dualism of human and machine. In 1999, scientist, inventor, and futurist Ray Kurzweil wrote The Age of the Spiritual Machines. In it, he says, 21st century machines, based on the design of human thinking, will do as their human progenitors have done, going to real or virtual houses of worship, meditating, praying, and transcending to connect with their spiritual dimension. As astounding as this prediction is, that our machines will someday be spiritual, the book's title alone is enough to disrupt the duality we commonly take for granted exists between us and our machines. Right? It's a provocative title, The Age of Spiritual Machines. So just try imagining if instead of ambiguous yin and yang, we call the two sides of the Taoist mandala human and machine, suggesting they are being born from each other and turning into each other, and that they are so related that each contains something of the other within itself. We could do the same with the other dualities I've questioned and not be bothered. Say one side is intellect and one side is emotion, or one side is matter and the other side is spirit. This is a helpful exercise because it reminds us these opposites are within us, within all of us, and together make us whole. None of us is simply one or the other, either intelligent or emotional, either material or spiritual. We can both think and feel. We are both body and spirit. But the notion that humans are machines and machines can be human isn't so obvious. It may cause some of us to recoil in disgust. My point here, however, isn't to argue what Kurzweil and others do, that humans and our machines are co-evolving and converging, but that our dualistic thinking on the matter causes us to consider technology to be the very opposite of what it means to be human, and that those who overly use or appreciate technology must be a bit inhuman. I began considering this dualistic paradigm recently when a good friend asked if I haven't strayed from the path of what I call my North Star, the humanistic ethic. since attending Singularity University last year, a Silicon Valley-based school co-founded by Ray Kurzweil that focuses on exponential technologies. My friend's question, which I believe stems from the common misconception this human versus technology duality leads to, is a good question, and it deserves a thoughtful response. But it's not the first time I've been accused of forgetting humanity in favor of machines. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to spend a day with a delegation from Afghanistan. Due to the U.S. war there, and to what they considered the unjust, unwarranted, and deadly preemptive war in Iraq, which has harmed the whole region, and because of the tremendous hurt and loss that they were still experiencing because of my country's heartlessness, they were initially rather hostile toward the Americans that they met, including me. But only a few hours later, during lunch together, if you can imagine, we had already been around each other long enough for them to recognize our common humanity. One of them told me, "We thought that you Americans had been around your machines for so long that you had become machines, without hearts. But now we know that you are human beings, and you have hearts just like we do." So this duality is widespread. It's global, it's universal. Many consider technology the opposite of humanity, and those who use it, again, a bit inhuman. When it comes to using technology to blow up our neighbors and their neighborhoods, I'd say there's some serious truth to this. What could be more inhuman than killing other humans? But anthropologists have also long distinguished tool-making as our species' specialty. And technology is just another word for tool-making. Technology is perhaps the most human kind of undertaking. Fish swim, birds fly, humans make tools. So my answer to my friend's question is no. I have not veered off course. Rather, I went to Singularity University in pursuit of my North Star. I went there because of my commitment to the humanistic ethic. As Erich Fromm defines it, the humanistic ethic is based on the principle that good is what is good for humanity and evil is what is detrimental to humanity, the sole criterion of ethical value being human welfare. This means everything we do, every aspect of our societies ought to be for the purpose of promoting human welfare and individual unfolding, including economics, politics, and our treatment of the earth and other creatures, and the technologies we develop, which is the explicit mission of Singularity University. It isn't merely about educating, inspiring, and empowering leaders to apply technologies, but to apply them for the specific purpose of addressing humanity's grand challenges. During its 2019 annual summit, for example, Singularity University's executive director, Will Weissman, began the event saying, "I'm here because, like many of you, I believe in my core that an abundant world is possible in the not-too-distant future, and I want to do everything that I can to help bring that to fruition. To me," he says, "that looks like a world where we feed everyone, where we educate everyone, where we shelter everyone, a world where people feel safe and they feel they have a fair shot at living a good life, a world where there are mechanisms to help curb our deficiencies and overcome our most base impulses." That's the humanistic ethic talking. Weisman went on to say, with so many technologies that are emerging and converging to help us eliminate disease, address climate change, and transform scarcity into abundance across the globe, we have but one thing to do, the very thing we've assembled here to do, to create that future. Yet, his faith isn't in the tools, but in the tool makers. It's about us, he says. It's about people. That's how we're going to get there, and that's the only way we'll get there. We need to do this work together. Reflecting again his human-centered ethics. Singularity University promotes exponential technologies for the strict purpose of surmounting humanity's greatest challenges. The stakes have never been higher, Weisman continued. You understand that we have disconnected ourselves from nature and failed to understand that we are inextricably connected and dependent on each other, others' wellness to thrive as a whole. So everyone must do well if everyone is ultimately going to do great. And that's how we have to look at the world today. We all need to do well for all of us as a whole to be doing great. That sounds spiritual, not technological. That's the humanistic ethic. That's my North Star. I know it is for many of you. Our tools, our technologies, like everything else we do, according to this ethic, ought to be for the purpose of human welfare, which always includes the well-being of our planet. One of the most extraordinary and inspiring examples of this involves the Deepwater Horizon offshore oil rig explosion in 2010, resulting in 5 million barrels worth of oil continuously gushing into the Gulf of Mexico over a period of 87 days. But early on, after a conversation with James Cameron, the director of Titanic turned ocean activist, Peter Diamandis, a co-founder of Singularity University and the X Prize Foundation, organized a rapid response flash prize to anyone who could invent a technology that could recover the spilled oil no less than 2,500 gallons per minute, more than double the rate of the then existing technologies. Using a combination of traditional methods, cleanup teams managed to remove less than half the oil, approximately 69 million gallons, Diamandis recollects. Natural dispersal and evaporation removed an additional 84 million gallons, but that left a whopping 53 million gallons, about 26% of the spill, to pollute the ocean and adjacent shoreline. 53 million gallons, to give you an idea of it, is still 5 times the amount of that spilled by the Exxon Valdez in 1989. 350 teams from around the world pre-registered for this incentivized competition, not to win the money, because it would have cost more than that to make it, but to help solve the problem. 350 teams from around the world, resulting in 10 finalists, all of which exceeded the recovery goal of 2,500 gallons per minute. The winning team's tech was able to clean up 4,700 gallons per minute, which has since been improved to 6,000 gallons of spilled oil per minute. The impacts of this disaster on ocean, marine life, and shoreline were bad enough, but considering the amount of oil spilled, it would have been much worse were it not for a bunch of tool makers who cared about human welfare and the welfare of our planet. Disaster is a motivator because empathy is a motivator, Diamandis says, and empathy is never higher than when the same disaster movie has been playing on TV for over a month. People watched that oil gushing out of the ocean and they wanted to do something. It wasn't about profit or opportunism. It What motivated our tool-making species to make the tools necessary to deal with this disaster was their humanity. Many SU graduates are also members of the Abundance Digital community, including myself. It's an online community that allows its members to continually learn and be inspired to do our utmost to make the world a better place for everyone by taking on humanity's greatest challenges. During its 2018 annual Abundance 360 conference, Diamandis interviewed cryptocurrency enthusiast Brock Pierce. That sounds pretty boring, doesn't it? Cryptocurrency enthusiast. It's almost a contradiction in terms. Brock Pierce told the entrepreneurs and the business leaders in attendance, this new means of securing financial transactions represents an opportunity to go from building a world of me to creating a world of we. Then concluded his remarks by explaining the Japanese secret of a happy life. Find out what you love. Find out what you're good at. Find out what the world needs. At the intersection of these three is your life's purpose. And trust me, the money will follow. It's easy to be pessimistic these days, and hard not to be. It seems we're always let down by the leaders that we elect to represent our interest. Meanwhile, the huge problems we face, like global warming and income inequality and the overwhelming cost of housing, education, and health care, the rise of global authoritarians, and so on, seem to only be getting worse. Sometimes it feels like the only thing we can do is point our finger at somebody to blame, using it like a magic wand to transform them into a dragon to slay or a giant to topple. But most of the time, we're really only pointing our fingers at windmills. What we have to be careful of is pointing them at real people, dehumanizing them in the process. This is what dualistic thinking facilitates. Me good, you bad. It makes us feel good, or at least better about ourselves and the world, but at somebody else's expense. The humanistic ethic requires us to believe in the innate goodness of humanity, in the goodness of others, in the goodness of our tool-making species and the tools we make, because our tools are an extension of our humanity. At least they can be and should be. Kurzweil says, no other tool-using animal on earth has demonstrated the ability to create and retain innovations in their use of tools. So if we believe in humanity and in the innate goodness within us all, then we must also believe in the goodness of our tool-making behaviors. This, again, isn't to say that our technologies haven't led to many disasters, like the deep water horizon, which isn't far from the worst. Only that they are not innately bad, nor are those who create them or use them. Machines are not necessarily the antithesis of humanity, but can be profound expressions of it. Technos means art, creativity. So long, that is, as those wielding them do so in the service of human well-being and fulfillment. Far from being heartless, we must realize individuals like Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, Will Wiseman, Brock Pierce, to paraphrase my Afghanistan friends, are human beings that have hearts just like everyone else. Because they are motivated by love and compassion and care, the best that the human soul has to offer. This is why I feel so positive about our future these days, because I believe in tool makers like these and the tools they make, because I know they are motivated to help create a future where we feed everyone, where we educate everyone, where we shelter everyone, a world where people feel safe and they feel they have a fair shot at living a good life. And this is why I'm confident in saying, yes, I'm still following my North Star. Thank you.
Our closing hymn this morning is number 19. It will be up on the screen, or it is in your gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit.
You must find the place inside yourself where nothing is impossible. Deepak Chopra. The overcoming of the most trying crisis, as well as the realization of our most cherished dreams, whether it be in our personal lives or in the world, is already at hand in potentiality. That is the magic of life, which allows for the manifestation of what is good. We must seek the best solutions to use in courageously working towards reaching our goals without a doubt of a positive outcome. Namaste. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, That's fine. You told me.
everybody was greeting each other.
So